here. All right, what's going on, everybody? It's Dr. Sean J. Harris here with Generational Wealth Academy. And coming to you guys tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the housing market and the rent issue that's going on here that many people are talking about. So let's get started. I want to go over a few things with everybody. One thing I like to use analogies. So analogy I want to use here today is about like learning sports. You know, right now we're in football season. I think a lot of people can really relate to football. But here in the game of football, for example, if I were to tell a person to take a button hook to the right and a pass will be on their way to you, anybody knowing football, by the time you turn around, the ball's already in the air before you turn around. So if you went to the left, obviously you wouldn't catch the ball. And that would just kind of signify that you don't know the rules of the game, basically. And here's the deal. If you don't catch the ball because you don't know the rules of the game, you can never score. If you can never score, you can never win. So some of the fundamentals about learning success principles or wealth principles is you got to understand some rules and you got to just kind of follow those rules. Because here's the deal. When it comes to finances, doing certain things a certain way for a certain period of time, the probability, the mathematical outcome is just strictly mathematics. It's going to work out. It's kind of like baking a cake. If you put eggs, the flour, oil, everything, you mix it up in the milk, in 20 minutes after the oven, we should have a relatively similar tasting cake to the next person because we're using a duplicatable system. So I want to talk to you guys about that. You also hear me talk about tools. We use things as tools. Money is just a tool. Money is neither good nor bad in and of itself. It just takes on the characteristics of the person who has it. So if you're already doing cool things in life, it's just going to make you a bigger giver, if you will, or have a giver's heart. At the same time, if you're not doing effective, positive things with money, then of course you'll just kind of do more of the same. So when I talk about tools just make a job easy. I always give an analogy of a nail. If I have a nail and I want to hammer it into a piece of wood, if I use my hand, it's going to be a very painful day and a very bloody experience. So just using the hammer, we can get the effect that we want with positive results. So I'm going to just share some tools with you guys tonight. I got just a few little things I want to cover tonight. As it relates to what's going on right now in the economy, you have to be a good forecaster to be successful in anything. You got to be able to, we're not any crystal ball readers or know the future or anything like that, but you should still be able to forecast certain activities and behaviors, particularly when it comes to finances. You should be things that happen right now to you financially is a result of some things you've done maybe a year ago, 5 years ago, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, whether good or bad. So if you are having positive effects financially, it's just a mere result of some things that you put in place in the past and just kind of lining some ducks up. So coming into 2022, here's a book that I wrote. I wrote this book, Why It's Critical for Black Families to Create, to Make Money. I wrote this book in the middle of, well, it's actually the beginning of the pandemic. I wrote that book like, I think the end of March. I think we went into lockdown like in March of 2020. And I started writing that book at the very completion of March and finished it in probably like not even a week. And here's people may say, well, Sean, how do you write books so easily? And if you guys remember Friday when I talked about what's a gift. Gift is something that comes easy to you but hard to others. One of the gifts I have is the ability to write and write books. So what I did was, it's just like, you know, if you take an orange, if you squeeze it, you're going to get orange juice. If you take a lemon, you squeeze it, you're going to get lemon juice. Well, whenever you're under pressure and you're scrolling, if that's a word, then whatever's in you will come out. So that's why it's easy for me to write books, because I have just so much information in me through experiences and associations, just knowledge and wisdom, particularly when it comes to wealth creation and finances. So I want to share a little bit with you guys as far as being able to forecast things in advance. A lot of people right now are hurting financially. I understand that. But now what we got to do is you got to put a game plan in place, a blueprint, so that we can effectively maneuver ourselves into the positions that we want to be in financially. So I saw a buddy of mine, he posted something online the other day regarding rent is exceedingly high, I guess across the country. Um, so I started looking into that, and I started seeing more and more people were making complaints about their rent and so forth. But so I want to show you guys just some different strategies, a few different techniques that you can leverage your current position if you're looking to get into a house. Show you how to kind of work your way into doing that effectively. And if you're already in a house, I'm going to show you some things that could be very beneficial to you financially as it relates to rapid or accelerated payoffs of your mortgages. Many people have 30-year mortgages. I can show you how to knock that out in a relatively quick period of time. You guys probably know a lot of people who have multiple properties, and you're wondering, well, how do you have more than one house? How do you have 5 houses? How do you have 50 houses? How do you have 100 investment properties? Well, there's strategies and techniques that investors use to acquire multiple properties. And then once you really get in the groove of investing, you'll find that you can take that capital and leverage and buy even more property. And you can use the property that you already have as leveraging tools such as collateral to acquire more property. See, a bank is more interested in knowing you have assets than necessarily having cash in the bank, because they know they can leverage those assets if you were to default on any of those investments. So we're going to kind of cover a little bit of all that here tonight. One of the biggest things with real estate this past year, I noticed a lot of people had the most difficult time securing contracts or bids on properties because everyone was out there. They were putting in 10, 20, 30. I've seen several cases where people put in $50,000 over asking price to be able to get the house. So what a lot of investors were doing who were buying properties, or just people who were looking to buy a house for the private use, they were doing what's called sight unseen. And that could sound funny to a lot of people. Like, well, how would I buy a house that I've never seen? Well, there's stipulations and contingency clauses in real estate contracts that you can get out of a contract if you need to. But that's how a lot of people were winning these bids. So again, it's all about knowing the rules to the game and knowing how to play the game. So matter of fact, we bought a property last year and we did that. We were finding the properties that we were looking for, but every time it was like someone's just beating us to the punch. So we did sight unseen and put certain contingencies, whether it was an inspection contingency. We put several clauses in there to where if we decided that we didn't want the property once we saw it, then we could always pull out. So that way we were able to lock down contracts, get a day or two to be able to get to the property to see the property, and then of course close on the deal. So that's one of the number one things you have to know as a seasoned investor or a financial strategist, as I like to call it, when it pertains to buying assets. I want to talk to you guys about a practice that many communities use, and it would be very beneficial if you learn this concept. I call it house stacking. I remember growing up in school, my school days, I would always hear people make fun of certain communities. It was 2 communities in particular that would be picked on for doing this. But today, they are kicking it in the butt as far as financially, economically, and their socioeconomic status. But the Asian community and the Hispanic community were always laughed upon for house stacking. And basically what this is that it's multiple families that live in a house together. So let's go back to the rent situation. A lot of people complain about rent. Here in Atlanta, rents go anywhere from like $1,200 up to $2,200 if you're in downtown or Buckhead for a relatively small living space. If you're in a situation where you're renting and your rent is excessively high, the first thing I can always say is, of course, consider a roommate. If that's not going to be an option, or you want to look at different options, if you're a family, You may want to consider if you're in a rental house, um, cohabitate with another family, maybe even three. It depends on if it's a two-level house with a basement. Each family could have adequate space and share common areas. But with that, here's what the other communities have done effectively over the years. You would find a home where maybe two or three, maybe even four families will live in that house together. Family number one would start saving up their money with anticipation on moving. Family number two, family number three, and any other subsequent families would do the same. Well, when that rotation comes around and family number one is ready, typically what they do is they secure a vehicle first. So in the Hispanic community, and I have a lot of friends in the Hispanic community who has walked me through this and showed me, and I've seen it happen several times, where family number one would tend to get a vehicle. In the Hispanic community, for an example, and by no means, this is just straight facts. It's not any type of stereotype or anything, but let's use either a carpentry company or perhaps a landscaping company. They may attain a vehicle, a truck, and then a couple months later, the second family would secure a vehicle. And then the next family would secure a vehicle. Then it would come back around to the rotation, and then family number one would then find a home to purchase. They would move out, family two move into number one spot, three into two, and then they would bring in another family. And then they would continue that rotation over and over and over. So you always have a family that's getting a new vehicle, and they're using these vehicles typically for businesses, being self-employed many times. And then that person will rotate up to the next level, find a house, they're out. So they have a work vehicle slash personal vehicle plus a home. And you just keep that cycle going repetitively. Now, if family, there's a lot of families that do this. When families do this, you always have what I call an anchor house or core home. So in the event if anything happens, someone just needed somewhere to stay, you can always come back to the anchor home. But you're using that home as a leveraging tool to allocate other resources to be able to purchase homes, purchase other vehicles, use that property to borrow money against, to either start companies or buy equipment. So you see how everything is being used as a tool again, using it as a tool. Again, if you're owning a business and you're operating out of a house, of course, and I'm not a CPA or a tax professional, I'm just giving you my experiences and my advice. But you benefit from the tax advantages from having a home-based business in the house. So things about the house, whether it's utilities, repairs, improvements on the home, a percentage of the mortgage of the house, all this stuff can be wrapped into tax write-offs, tax advantages. So you have to really understand the tax code as well there. So with that, that gives you an opportunity to now have a revolving tool or revolving instrument that the family can utilize to continue growing the family wealth. So house hacking, definitely want to take advantage of that. Let's talk about paying off mortgages. Well, before I go there, let me finish with the house hacking a little bit. A lot of people who are living in whether a studio, an apartment, a condo, what have you, if you're already in that space, I recommend just kind of elevating a little bit by inquiring about buying a multifamily unit, whether a duplex, triplex, quadplex. Depending on what city you're in, a lot of cities still have 10-plex, what we call the old shotgun type, top five on the bottom, straight in the front door, straight out the back door apartment units. I had a cousin who owned one of those, and that's where it really clicked in my head how numbers and real estate works. I remember she had bought this entire building. I think she said the purchase price was like $189 for the entire building with 10 units. Well, tenant number one paid for the entire building. Tenant number two, their rent paid for any incidentals and maintenance around the building. Tenants number 3 through 10 was straight profit, which allowed them to be able to maintain the building, improve the building, and better yet, even be able to go out and buy different assets. So again, you have to use strategy. You have to look at the overall game and learn how to play the rules and leverage. I can't stress leveraging enough. So with that, if you can position yourself to be able to buy a multifamily unit, you can live in one, rent out the others, and all of your other tenants pays for your mortgage. They're paying for the entire building, and you're also making a profit as well. So again, we got to look at different strategies. So many times, we get into the ego thing and be like, well, I want to live in a townhouse, or I want to live in a condo downtown in Buckhead, Atlanta, but you got to look at strategy. You got to look at what's going to make sense financially. Is it that you're wanting to get Instagram likes by having a overlook of the city, or do you want to capitalize and generate revenue, have an asset producing income? So you got to, again, like I said, you got to forecast. You got to see what's important. Where are you looking to go? You have to ask yourself what's important and what's your vision. So let's go to the before I hit the mortgage. I know a lot of you guys are really wanting to hear about this mortgage part, but let me also talk about saving. A lot of people are in the idea, and this is where we've been conditioned. This is the way the school system teaches us. This is the way society teaches us in the workplace, is to save money. Everything is about saving money. And again, we don't save money just to save money, to stash it under the mattress or whatever. You save money to use money, to be able to invest money, to be able to grow money. I talk about the three money rules. The first one is to be able to create income, usually a high income skill set. A high income skill set is a income that you have that's at least 5 figures that you generate every 30 days or less. So you should be able to make $10,000 a month easily. System driven, typically. That's what's called a high income skill set. Typically, the job's not going to pay that amount. That's why I said high income skill set, because again, a high income skill set, no one can take that skill set away from you. So whatever it is that you do professionally, I always encourage people, consider starting a consulting business, doing whatever it is you may do. A lot of times, I had a client who worked in the home improvement industry. I guess that's what you would call it. But she left that company and came back and was hired as a consultant, doing exactly what she was doing before she even left full time, and they paid her 3 times the amount that she was making when she worked there. So these are positions you can put yourself in based on your skill set. So monetize whatever it is you do, because if you're good at it, it may in fact be your gifting. Now you just got to figure out how to monetize that gift. So instead of being in the mindset of always saving, how about just figuring out how to make more money? Because the same effort, the same thought process that we put into figuring out how can I save money to do this, that same thought process and same energy or effort level, you can put that into figuring out how to make more money. So why lower a standard in efforts to save money when we can say, hey, this is what I want, this is the quality I want. Now let's just figure out how to meet that financial goal. So figure out ways how to make more money, okay? That's gonna be the number one thing. So that goes hand in hand with this whole thing we're talking about as far as being able to create more income to satisfy increased food costs, living costs, you name it. Because inflation does happen every so often. We're gonna go through inflation. That's just the nature of the beast. But you gotta know how to leverage that. You gotta know how to prepare in advance. You gotta know how to go through the storm as it's going. But then more importantly, while it's happening, you gotta know how to leverage and take advantage of it, so that when you come out of it, you have a transfer of wealth that took place. You never let a good crisis go to waste. Always maximize. Leveraging credit. Right now, a lot of people are in rental situations because of less than stellar credit. That's one thing we got to start working on. We got to work on the credit. Start building your credit score. If you already have great credit, if you have children or grandchildren, you may want to consider putting them on your account as an authorized user. Start building up their profile. And basically what that does is when you use an authorized credit account, basically your credit is mirroring on their account. So you're helping to build and establish their credit. So when they are of age to be able to start conducting business deals, closings, purchasing homes, things like that, they're in a good sound position. So leverage your credit. Here's another thing too when it comes to credit. If you guys are a couple, significant others, husband, wife, whatever, that's also another situation where you both build credit. See, one party can have a credit card at one bank, the other spouse could have a credit card at the same bank, but a separate credit card. And you put each other on as authorized users. So this lets your credit continue to grow in a staggered stair step. And then one spouse gets a second credit card at perhaps another bank when the time is appropriate. The other spouse do the same thing. So see, now you have 4 credit cards total in the house with 2 per person, but you're on all these credit cards and you're growing your FICO score that way. So that's another freebie there. So when your credit is solid, you allow credit to act as cash for you, because credit is definitely king. That way you're able to leverage your, see, you got a lot of people out that's using their credit cards, buying shoes and cars and purses and stuff like that, when you can be using that same credit card to buy real estate. And then once you get cash flow and generate revenue through your real estate holdings, now you can go and buy all the cool stuff you wanted to buy. You can buy the purses, buy the cars, buy the bags, shoes, everything you want to do. But always put a income producing asset in place to leverage and pay for those things. Nothing wrong with getting the things, just channel how you get them. And again, if you understand the tax code, there's ways that you get advantages for that as well. And all the things that you really enjoy, you can write it off as tax advantages through your company. And again, that's why it's important to have LLCs or some type of business entity in place that helps you build generational wealth. Something as simple as getting an LLC, a family LLC, is the beginning process and the foundation of building generational wealth for your family. Having a private family banking system. I stress that so much. You have to develop a private family banking system. I have an amazing course that teaches you how to build private family banking systems. That's how families create wealth. The Kennedys, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Harrises. That's how we create wealth, by using private family banking systems and learning how to leverage certain tools such as life insurance. You got to learn how to leverage those kind of things. So let me see. I'm trying to go in a systematic order here. So again, by gaining good credit, now you're in a position where you can start getting better interest rates. People don't understand sometimes how incredibly important it is to get the lowest interest rates possible, so that over the course of time, you're not paying as much, because that's all interest is, just the price that you're paying to borrow money. So you want that cost to be down as low as possible. And you have to understand, you have to ask yourself, am I more interested in the cost of the asset or the price of the asset? See, what you pay a month, if you can afford that, but look at the big picture. Can you afford the overall price? So is it that you're more interested in a monthly payment or the cost of the item? So these are things you have to look at when you're looking at a house, or you're looking at acquiring different assets. Okay, let's get to the big thing that I know a lot of you guys are really interested about as it relates to those who are already homeowners. For those who are already homeowners, you guys, if you leverage your system, again, I'm not a tax person or anything like that. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a mortgage specialist. I'm just sharing with you what I do, what works for my family, and you get with your people to do due diligence, and they'll let you know if it can work for you as far as your financial team. With your mortgage, if you guys remember back before the big real estate market crash in 2008, real estate was booming. Everybody was going after the 15-year mortgage. Here's why: because with the 15-year mortgage, you pay more, but again, you get to pay the house off in 15 years. But here's what you got to understand. If something happened, let's say your furnace went out or anything like that, and you had to stop and take care of that, a lot of people were getting in financial binds and were falling behind in their mortgage payment, because the mortgage payment was higher than what they would have anticipated if it was a 30-year mortgage. So here's what I always tell people to do. Take a 30-year mortgage, whatever your mortgage amount is, grab a pen and paper. Whatever your mortgage amount is, you take your mortgage amount, multiply it times 4, take that number, and divide it by 12. What you're doing is you're taking 4 full payments that year and effectively dissolving it over the 12-month period of time evenly. Now, a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute, Sean, isn't this like the bi-weekly payment? Nope, it's not. Totally different. Because with the bi-weekly payment, what you're doing is you're making 13 payments a month, 13 payments a year instead of 12 payments. But the method I'm showing you is you're making 4 full payments and you're just equally dissolving it over the course of time. So I'm just throwing out numbers. Let's just say, for example, your mortgage was $1,500 and whatever that number through the mathematical equation I showed you, let's say that number was $300. So if you're already paying $1,500, you would pay $1,500 the way you typically would, take care of your PMI, and then the other $300 check, you would do a separate check and write strictly for the principal payment of loan number 12345 and send those 2 payments in. So what happens is you start accelerating your payment down exceedingly quick. So by doing that, using that payment, it's going to knock you down roughly about 7.5 years, depending on your interest rate and how you structure it. But ideally, that can take a 30-year mortgage down to a 7.5-year mortgage if staying consistent doing that. Now, stick a pin in that for a second. Let me show you something else. When you close on a property, you probably always heard from your agent, close on the 15th or after. And this way you're able to leapfrog a payment. So let's say, for an example, today, let's just go to March. We're almost in March. If we close today, our first note, what is today, January 23rd, we close today, our first note would not be due until March the 1st. So we get to skip over that month. However, if we closed on February the 3rd, our first note is still going to be due March the 1st. So that's why a lot of people like to close on the 15th or after, so you can get that leapfrog effect. Now, what most people do is they say, yay, I don't have to pay a house note for 45 days or so. Let me go buy a new refrigerator. Let me go buy something for the house that I may have needed, which is understandable. But here's the deal. If you were to take a full payment, whatever your payment is going to be, if you made a full payment all to the principal, 100% to the principal before that first note is due, that shaves off anywhere between 2.5 to 4 years off of the 30-year mortgage. Did you catch that? So just by making that one payment before your note is due, you shave off years off of your mortgage. Now, if you take that 3-4 years, whatever it's going to be, and don't hold me to the numbers exactly. I'm giving you roundabouts because, again, it's going to be based on your interest rate and how it's structured. But let's say that you knocked off 3 or 4 years off of a mortgage from the beginning, and then you went right into your first payment doing the other mathematical formula that I showed you. That's how you shave a house note down to 5 to 7 years of paying it off total. So again, it's all about having access to the information, being able to use the tools. But see, the thing about using the tools is you got to be careful with tools, because a Ginsu knife in the hand of a sous chef can create miracles and artistry. But that same Ginsu knife in the hand of a toddler can be deadly. So you got to be able to know what tools to use and how to use them effectively, and how to leverage them to their highest and best use. So those are just some strategies that the wealthy use to acquire wealth, to build wealth, and to stay wealthy. So you gotta learn some of these foundational principles. And these are the things that I teach my clients. These are things that I teach in the Generational Wealth Academy, is leveraging tools that you can use to your advantage. It's going to be able to help you. So I think I kind of covered everything I wanted to cover. If you guys have any questions, hit me in the chat box. Let me shift screen. I'm kind of multitasking here, so let me go over here and see if there are any questions in the chat. These are things that I teach in Generational Wealth. If there are not, then we're going to continue moving on and go to the next section for tomorrow's training. How about house buying with house credit? How about buying a house with business credit? Yeah, Georgette, you can definitely buy a house using business credit. And again, that's what you want to do. You want to put yourself in a position where you can use credit, whether personal credit, business credit, and culminate different strategies and techniques to purchase the houses so that you're never using your own money. you guys probably heard me on a live the other day where I was saying, we get little nasty grams on Caden's Facebook saying, well, if you're such a rich kid, why don't you just buy your own renovation project for your bus? Well, wealthy people, business owners, we don't use our own money. You use OPM, other people's money. You leverage other people's money, because here's the thing too. You've probably heard many people say, you know what, I got this big lump sum of money, I'm gonna put this big sum of money down on a house for a down payment. It's gonna make my payment go down. But in actuality, your payment really doesn't go down that much by using that strategy. But instead of putting $40,000 down on one property, how about putting 10,000 down on four $60,000 properties? And see, now you can get them all cash flowing and generating cash. So again, you gotta leverage. You don't want to put all that cash flow in one particular area. You want your money working for you. So so hopefully I answered that question effectively, Georgette. So that's pretty much what I want to cover tonight. I'm going to continue doing these master classes. Tomorrow I have, and that's one thing too. As Tara and I talk, she always tells me, she said, Sean, you got to explain to people how to make money now. What are some things they can start putting in play and in position to start creating wealth, creating just a little income? Because, one of the biggest things is, if you ask yourself, if you had an extra $500 a month, extra $300 a month, what does that change in your house? That can change a lot of things. A car note, the difference between having your child in public school and perhaps a private school or anything like that. So these are some of the things that I really want to start tapping in a lot and communicating with the audience, is that there's ways to create income. You just got to strategize and figure out what your skill sets are to make it. So tomorrow night, I have my personal chef. His name is Johnny, Chef Johnny. He's going to be coming on tomorrow. And he's going to show you guys how he creates massive amounts of income by not working in a restaurant. He is an amazing chef, but he has a skill set. And the thing that I really admired about him a lot is that he involves his children. I'm like, that's my soft spot, my babies. So he has a daughter and a son. They go with him to all of his events, or most of his events. They know how to cook. They understand the process of the setup. They understand how to communicate with the client. They even understand paperwork and documentation. So Jenny's going to come on tomorrow. He's going to show you how he's making a ton of money. He has like holiday seasonal specials. He's going to show you how to take your culinary, your artistry skills and create income. And tomorrow you may say, well, Sean, I'm not a cook. I don't want to be a chef or anything like that. It's the principles. Again, it's all about the foundational principles that you want to learn. One thing my dad always taught me, he still tells me this: business is business is business. Doesn't matter what kind of business you have. If you pull up an 18-wheeler truck full of toothpicks to my front door right now, I'll show you how to make $1 million out of it. Because all businesses are set up theoretically the same, particularly when they're system driven. And then the goal is to be able to duplicate the system. So Jenny's going to come on. He's going to share with you how he markets to clients. I asked him specifically if he'll ask how he collaborates with other vendors. I have another event planner. She's going to be coming on the following week. She catered my birthday party. So a lot of you guys saw my birthday party. Her company did that. But like with Johnny, I got another, my sax player. He does private parties for us. Steven. All these guys can collaborate and do business together. So can you imagine doing one event where you have a chef, you have a saxophone player, a violinist, a pianist, or anything like that? The event planner itself, you got to learn how to communicate and collaborate your skills together. I was driving just the other day and I saw on the back of a vehicle, it said guitar lessons, had the guy's phone number, website, and everything. How many people played in the band in high school? I played trumpet, I played drum. So just think about those skill sets that you have, that just picking it up, brushing off that clarinet, squeak it out a little bit, get that reed just right. But think about what type of cash flow you can create by just teaching somebody a talent that you already know. This is a skill set you learned maybe in high school or maybe in elementary school, but you have to be able to leverage your skills and create income. So it's a lot of different ways out here that you guys can be making money. Just jot down on a piece of paper, what am I good at? What am I good at that's easy to me and maybe difficult to others? What kind of value add can I create and monetize? So these are things I really want you guys to pay attention to. So again, Johnny's going to be on tomorrow night. Tuesday, I got Bob Mackey. You don't want to miss Bob. Bob is the man. Bob is the director and producer and writer of the television series that you see my family and I are involved in called Oscarville. He's going to be here Tuesday. He's going to talk about how he took one of his products, an invention that he created, him and a friend named Michael, and they got a deal on Shark Tank with Damon John. You want to learn this kind of stuff. See, I'm tapping into a resource of invaluable information that can, if you didn't just plot an idea in your head to go to the next step, to be able to figure out how you can start moving the wheels. So that is it for me tonight. I didn't want to be long, just want to kind of be brief. So we got some amazing classes. My cousin, Tara's cousin, he's going to be coming on, Terrence Albritton. He's the founder of Grady Baby Co., which is an apparel company. He just recently got into all of your major athletic shoe stores in the malls. Athlete's Foot, I think that's the store. I hope it's not just a foot situation, but Athletic Foot, I think it is. Foot Locker. He was just in New York a week or two ago doing a big photo shoot up there. So he has some amazing projects. He's going to show you how he started an apparel company, how he got it into the big brand stores. So next 2 weeks, man, we're gonna pack the house. We're gonna give you guys a lot of great information. So on that note, y'all have a great night. Have a productive and impactful week this week. Go out and do something amazing tomorrow and make impact. And I didn't check my calendar today, but I think we have 343 days left in 2022 to achieve your 2022 goals. Time is running out. Let's go.